chosen a special group of people, the nation of Israel, to be a blessing and make things right in the world again. But it seemed like from the start, this new nation wasn't going to have it easy. The Israelites had moved southwest to Egypt and had grown into a large nation. The king of the Egyptians, Pharaoh, felt threatened that the Egyptians would soon be outnumbered and overthrown by the Israelites. So he made all the Israelites slaves, working long and hard hours for the Egyptians. Some scholars even believe it was the Israelites who built the famous Egyptian pyramids. During this time that an Israelite named Moses first gets mentioned in the story. Let my people go. After years and years of living as slaves, Moses demanded Pharaoh let them leave Egypt. It didn't happen right away, and a lot of bad stuff had to happen to the Egyptians before Pharaoh changed his mind. But finally, he gave in to Moses and to God. He let the Israelites. But Moses stretched out his hand, and the waters of the sea parted so that the Israelites could cross. When the Egyptian armies came chasing after, the waters fell back down, and all the Egyptian soldiers were killed. Israel was free. Sure, it's all pretty exciting when we watch Hollywood recreate the scene. But can you imagine actually being there? Watching all that happen in front of your own eyes? Soon after escaping, Israel had trouble finding food and water. So they started to complain. Because of the complaining, God forced them to wander around the desert for 40 years, instead of leading them directly to the land that God had promised to Abraham. Well, watching a bunch of people wander around the desert for 40 years doesn't make for very interesting movies or TV, so we don't often see it. But it's a huge part of the history of Israel, and also proved to be pretty helpful to them. God used Moses to give them instructions on how to best live their lives according to God's ways. Having spent their lives as slaves, the Israelites were just learning how to be God's free people. It was an amazing journey. God led them by a pillar of fire at night and a cloud by day. Eventually, Moses grew old, and shortly before he died, passed on the leadership of Israel to a man named Joshua. When Moses died, the Israelites stood at the edge of the promised land. Their time of wandering was over, but their struggle to survive was only beginning.